Yeah, Bibiana.
Yes, I am so according.
I will ba.
What we dem for so ba could say granny.
Okoto yo son la shia. Okpo kamera. De jio kamo jira agba mara ko. Okato la toji ashima. Na fong le chia. Okata ovaja amahu domo. Ozotu.
A young woman named Esseman is 9 months pregnant. The events take place in a poor African village. Agnes, Esseman's neighbor whose husband she took away, constantly conflicts with her. The women again insult each other for a long time. Esseman does not feel guilty, as Eja chose her himself. Aunt Mansa supports Esseman, believing that if Agnes had taken better care of the husband, he would not have left her. Esseman asks Eja to allow her to move in with him because living next to his ex-wife is impossible. Eja told her to be patient and promised to build a big house for their family. Agnes and Eja have a joint daughter named Gnarly. The woman does not want Gnarly to communicate with her biological father. Esseman trades at the market with her friend Asantewa. Lately business has not been good, and the woman has been plagued with sharp pains. Asantewa asked Esseman how her relationship with her rival was going. Esseman believes that Agnes is no longer her rival, plus Eja's mother is on her side. Unfortunately, Asantewa was not blessed with a child by God. She is willing to do anything to someday experience the joy of motherhood. At night, Esseman gave birth at home since she had no money for a hospital. Asantewa and another local woman delivered the baby. Finally, Esseman gave birth to a boy. Upon seeing the baby's face with a cleft lip, the woman was horrified. Eja came in, who was happy to see his son. But when he saw the baby's face, he was shocked. Esseman was on the verge of tears. The next day, when Eja's mother saw the baby, she declared it was punishment for some sin committed by Esseman. The woman also claimed that the father of the child was definitely not Eja, as nothing like this had ever happened in their family. Eja agreed with his mother. At the first opportunity, Esseman visited the hospital. The doctor said the baby had a congenital defect, a hair lip. Surgery could correct it, but they didn't perform such operations here, and it was very expensive. But the doctor reassured Esseman, telling her about a charitable organization. From time to time, doctors who live abroad come here, and their services are completely free. But no one knows when they will come next. Esseman cannot bear to see her own child and asks Asantewa to take him away. The woman wandered the streets with him late into the night and then tried to reason with her friend. The baby cried because he needed his mother, but Esseman turned away from him, not wanting to see or hear. In a fit of emotion, the woman decided to run away. Glancing at her child for the last time, she left the house and spent the whole night on the street. Meanwhile, a whole crowd of people had gathered near her house. Believing that Esseman had abandoned her son, neighbors censured her, as did Eja, who stubbornly denied being the baby's father. The only person who cared for the unwanted child was Asantewa. Soon Esseman herself arrived. The neighbors began to say that she was a disgrace to the village. Her womb is vicious, and it has been passed on to her child. Of course, if Esseman had had the choice, it would not have worked out that way. At home, she continued to cry, but gradually began to get used to her son. She was no longer afraid to pick him up and play with him. The next day, Esseman stood in front of the mirror, cleaned up her appearance, and determined, went to Eja, saying that she had named their son after his father. However, Eja made it clear that he did not want to have anything to do with the child. Esseman returned home in tears. Asantewa told her directly that it would not be easy, but she would have to be strong and take control of herself because there were many difficulties ahead. The most important thing was to take care of the child. 2 years passed. Esseman still works at the market. One day she noticed a merchant selling supposedly miraculous medicines that could cure any illness. Esseman noticed that her colleague's daughter had already learned to walk, while her son, whom she named Nuku, still couldn't stand on his own. Esseman and her child again went to the hospital where she heard an unfavorable diagnosis from the doctor. It turns out that in addition to a cleft lip, her son has cerebral palsy and developmental delay. If Essuman had undergone an ultrasound during pregnancy, she would have known about this beforehand. According to the doctor, there are treatment methods that can help alleviate his condition. Essuman thinks all this is pointless if her son can never walk anyway. Returning home, she cried helplessly. Life seemed even more bleak than before. She sadly watched from the window as Edge's mother spent time with her healthy granddaughter Gnarly. Later, the little girl let slip to Essuman that her father had a son named after his grandfather. Essuman felt betrayed. She decided to go to work to her ex-boyfriend after all and told she still loved him. He admitted that he loved her too, but her son prevents them from being together. Out of desperation, Essuman decided to turn to that merchant. He quoted a staggering sum for his miraculous medicine. Essuman didn't have that kind of money. At night, she counted her meager savings, promising the son that she would find a way to cure him no matter the cost, so that others would be ashamed of their words. Essuman visited Edge's home and asked him for money. Edge said that he had nothing, and he also had another family. But he promised that if he suddenly had extra money, he would give it to her. Essuman decided to sell her fabric and pawn her gold chain to raise some funds. However, she was told at the pawn shop that the gold was fake. Essuman was desperate, but one day a Santewa gave her money. It was enough for her to buy medicine. The merchant assured her that it would be ready in a week, and they would be amazed by the results. Time passed, but nothing changed. Edge's mother said that usually a child is a blessing, but this one was definitely a curse. In the old days, such children were not even given names, leaving them to the spirits of their ancestors in the forest. Despite everything, Essuman loves her son, as he is all she has. But Edge's mother believes that not everyone is meant to live, so Essuman should pray day and night for the spirits to rid her of this heavy burden. Of course, Essuman did not change her mind, and the next day she expressed to Edge all her dissatisfaction. However, Edge's mother did not feel guilty, considering that Nuku couldn't even be called a human being. The new wife of Edge became a witness to this conversation. She caught up with the woman, and to Essuman's surprise, said that no one has the right to advise her to get rid of her own son. Nana recommended Essuman to seek out a well-known preacher. He performs miracles, and people come to him from afar. If Essuman decides to meet with him, Nana promised to take her there. 3 weeks passed, but the merchant still did not call her back. Essuman realized that she had become a victim of a scammer. Once Edge came to her to bring some money, but Essuman wasn't here. Unaware that the woman was watching him, Edge entered the house. Seeing Nuku, he grabbed a pillow, but he did not have time to execute his plan because Essuman entered the room. Out of desperation, Essuman decided to agree to go to the preacher. She wondered why Nana was helping her. She said that her family had 6 children, and the younger sister was sick for a long time before passing away. She witnessed her parents suffering and understands what Essuman is going through now. The pastor preached to a small audience and then asked Essuman and her son to come up to him. Upon seeing the boy's face, the preacher couldn't bear it and turned away. He asked Essuman who had prepared food for her when she was pregnant. She replied that it was her friend. The preacher was convinced that this was the root of all her troubles. Essuman couldn't believe that her friend could do such a thing. The preacher promised to heal her. He performed a ritual that night, saying that from this moment on, she was clean and would start to see miracles in her life. In gratitude, Essuman paid the pastor a small amount of money. He in turn said that he had received a revelation from the god that they should spend this night here and continue to work on her spiritual cleansing. Essuman didn't immediately understand the pastor's true intentions. She didn't want this, but couldn't escape. Essuman didn't tell Nana what had happened. She only hoped that if she had strong faith, the miracle that the pastor spoke of would still happen. However, this did not happen. Essuman's life continued on its usual course. It seemed like she was never going to have anything good again. Essuman gathered the courage to apologize to Agnes for taking her husband away from her. However, Agnes wanted a public apology. Essuman agreed to do it and even knelt down, hoping to atone for her sin. One day at the market, a pregnant girl saw Nuku and got scared, refusing to buy any products. Essuman asked the Santewa to accompany her to a shaman who might be able to prepare medicine for Nuku. the friends traveled a long way to meet the shaman. In these parts, Esumun's mother lived, and they stayed at her house. The next day, the women met with the shaman. He said that Nuku's illness was called fish, because his legs looked like a fish tail. According to the shaman, during pregnancy Esumun ate forbidden fish, and now the spirit of the animal had settled in her womb. The shaman planned to exorcise it and thus heal Nuku. For this, the boy had to drink a decoction of a special herb. Later, Esumun went to the shore to buy fresh fish. A young man named Jayamfi was so charmed by Esumun that he gave her the fish for free. Another session of spirit exorcism took place. During the day Esumun, as the shaman commanded, performed the ritual in the field, standing there until dark. The woman did not believe in success, but it was the only thing she could do. Esumun's mother asked Asantewa when she would give the parents a grandchild, as it was long overdue. The woman also said that if she couldn't have a child herself, she could adopt one. Jayamfi, the fisherman, brought Esumun a catch again, not taking his eyes off her. When he saw Asantewa with Nuku in her arms, he was frightened, but it never occurred to him that it was Esumun's child. The guy continued to come to her with gifts. Esumun was very pleased with his attention, so when Jayamfi offered to take a walk, she agreed without hesitation. The couple walked near a beautiful waterfall. Esumun felt happy because she had already forgotten what it was like to be loved. She confessed to Jayamfi that lately she had been overwhelmed with too many problems. The guy advised her to accept life as it is. At home, Esumun noticed that Nuku had a fever. It was probably because of the potion the shaman gave them. Esumun and Asantewa bathed Nuku in the river to bring down the fever. Asantewa said she wanted to ask the shaman to cure her infertility. Esumun thinks it's a bad idea because not all children are born healthy. But Asantewa is willing to accept any option because motherhood is her ultimate dream. Noticing Jayamfi, Esumun approached him and confessed that Nuku was her son, not Asantewa's. Seeing the shock on the guy's face, Esumun hurriedly left. Women in this village constantly gossip about Esumun, believing that her child is a spirit and therefore belongs in the spirit world, not in the human world. Suddenly, Asantewa's mother, after consulting with a lawyer, offered to adopt a girl whose parent is mentally ill and unable to care for her. At first, Asantewa did not want to agree to this, but when she realized that the child's mother was really mentally ill, she felt sorry for the girl. During a ritual, Esumun couldn't take it anymore and said that she was tired of it all. None of the medicines the shaman gave them helped. The next day Esumun, feeling upset, asked Asantewa if she was to blame for what happened to Nuku. After all, the pastor, shaman and many others told her that it was the food, but she only ate what her friend cooked. Asantewa couldn't believe what she had heard. She was the only one who had supported Esumun throughout this time, but the woman continued to insist on her own version, believing that the infertile friend envied her pregnancy and had put a curse on her. In tears, Asantewa left. Esumun felt guilty, but it was too late. Meanwhile, a woman from the city asked Agnes to tell Esumun that doctors from abroad would soon be coming to their village to perform free surgeries as part of a charity program. Despite her resentment toward Esumun, Agnes agreed to help. Esumun was planning to return to her village, but without Asantewa. With one last look at Jayamfi, Esumun was planning to leave this place, but in the end she stayed. Looking at her son, she couldn't hold back tears, remembering all the hurtful words that people had constantly said to her. Wrapping Nuku in a blanket, Esumun entered the water with him, wishing to rid herself of the heavy burden of motherhood. But she couldn't do it and left Nuku on the shore. One of the women was a witness to this. She blocked Esumun's way by telling her a legend about the local mountains. People believe that there are spirits of unborn children living there. They choose their mothers, not the other way around. So Esumun had no choice, and it wasn't her fault. Hearing these words, Esumun felt relieved and realized that her son must live. Hoping it wasn't too late to make things right, Esumun returned to the shore. Not finding Nuku, she started calling his name in tears and searching in the water, and then ran to her mother and Asantewa, telling them the truth. Esumun said straight out that she was tired of living like this, but no matter what, she loved her son and wanted to bring him home. Suddenly Esumun saw Jayamfi, who was holding Nuku in his arms, and told her to never abandon him again. Asantewa told Esumun that she heard from Agnes that doctors are coming to their area who will be able to help Nuku. From now on, everything will be fine. 5 years passed. Esaman is pregnant again. Her beautiful son Nuku and her loving husband Jayamphai are